Let's talk a little bit about Matt Whitaker. This guy is he should be recusing himself. I don't know that he should have ever been appointed. Of course not. But by his own measure, he should be recusing himself. Here he is on... This is him, let's see, where he says, this is Ari Melber covering this on Matt Whitaker on the radio, saying that he thinks the Russian interference story has been proven false. Now, look, whether you think the Russian interference materially impacted the election or not, there is no one within or without our government who disputes the fact that the Russians interfered in the election. Sometimes it's material, sometimes it's not. This is not like, you know, you don't need to see a result to have attempted to do something. But here is Matt Whitaker, the guy who is overseeing the investigation as to whether or not there was collusion involving this this interference on a radio program. Here it is.
Here's this audio that's been unearthed of Whitaker, this is Trump's new guy, denying that the Russians interfered with the U.S. election.
The left is trying to sow this theory that essentially Russians interfered with the U.S. election, which has been proven false. They did not have any impact in the election, and that has been very clear from the Obama administration.
So there he is, indicating one conflict of interest he would have in terms of he has already prejudged an investigation that is still ongoing. Here is Whitaker in several 2018 news clips describing how Trump might fight against Mueller and Rosenstein by cutting off funding. This, of course, is problematic insofar as it indicates a certain predisposition towards the investigation.
The Department of Justice is not going to be extorted. We're going to do what's required by the rule of law.
I think what ultimately the president's going to start doing is putting pressure on Rod Rosenstein, who is in charge of this investigation.
The indictment alleges that the Russian conspirators want to promote discord in the United States and undermine public confidence in democracy. We must not allow them to succeed.
Well, I could see a scenario where Jeff Sessions is replaced with a recess appointment, and that Attorney General doesn't fire Bob Mueller, but he just reduces his budget so low that his investigation grinds to almost a halt.
Yeah, so there you have Whitaker before he was named Chief of Staff to Jeff Sessions, basically outlining how you'd go about closing down the Mueller investigation without actually closing down the Mueller investigation.
Just a thought experiment.
Yeah, just a thought experiment. But here's the problem. Based upon a standard that Whitaker laid down himself in defense of Jeff Sessions' recusal, Whitaker should recuse himself as well. Here he is. I think he was on the radio. Or no, this is, on the radio. And maybe he was talking to the Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust. Here he is.
The reason he recused himself is not because there's anything for him to hide as it relates to the Trump campaign and ties to Russia. As a lawyer, if there is an appearance of impropriety, and as soon as the, sort of the outrage from the left occurred, he knew as a lawyer that that is an appearance of impropriety because there are people suggesting that he did something wrong. So he has to, it's a conflict. He has to recuse.
There you go. There's an appearance of impropriety. Well, so I think the left, in speaking out, has basically fulfilled Matt Whitaker's own standard for what would constitute a reason to recuse yourself. And boom. Thank you, Matt Whitaker. That's the Whitaker standard.
It's no problem. And also, if you have an invention that has not found a funding source yet, get in touch.
I missed that video.
That was
I
amazing.
did not see that.
He was talking about something totally different.
We did like a 10-minute segment on it on Thursday. It was so awesome. This will help you get into a hot tub if you're injured. Also, the Russia investigation is total bullshit. See you in the White House.
Now, putting aside the fact that Whitaker, by his own standards, Matt Whitaker, this is the acting attorney general now, former chief of staff of Jeff Sessions, putting aside the fact that by the Whitaker standard, which he expressed in explaining why Jeff Sessions had to recuse himself, according to the Whitaker standard, Whitaker should recuse himself. And he laid out plans on how one would stifle the Mueller investigation without actually ending it. Here's the part that also should scare you a little bit. And this is what makes me believe this guy is a Mike Pence hire. This came down from the People for the American Way. Matt Whitaker was at a conservative forum in April 2014. He was a candidate for a Republican U.S. Senate nomination in Iowa. He also ended up working on Sam Clovis's, I think, campaign. Clovis was had to leave because of his Russia connections, apparently. But so this video was saved by People for the American Way. And here is Matt Whitaker, your new acting attorney general, talking about maybe we should have a little bit more religion involved in what we do.
Well, as someone that's interacted with the federal judiciary a time or two, I will tell you that I have a unique perspective on federal judges. And, while I agree, I want to understand their judicial philosophy and whether they understand natural law and natural rights, and then the founding documents and how they fit together. I don't think that gets us far enough because natural law oftentimes is used from the eye of the beholder, if you will. And what I'd like to see is I'd like to see things like their worldview, what informs them, how have they lived their lives, are they people of faith? Do they have a biblical view of justice, which I think is very important because we all know that our government...
Levitical or New Testament? Huh?
I'm a New Testament. And what I know is as long as they have that worldview, that they'll be a good judge. And if they have a secular worldview where this is all we have here on earth, then I'm going to be very concerned about how they judge.
That guy is fucking awesome. Not only does he look like a bouncer in the fucking meatpacking district, he believes in God and shit. That's a big league justice.
I mean...
I bet you hated Juantha.
The moderator tried to point out sort of the absurdity of what he was saying by suggesting, you've got to be clear on which Bible you're talking about.
The New Testament.
I think we're talking about the Bible that non-freak people read.
He could have said, are you talking about the Quran? I mean, which
yeah, sure, Samantha. We're talking about the Quran, sure. Would you like to open a falafel stand? Come on, get serious.
Your new
fucking
acting
SJW.
attorney general, ladies and gentlemen, still arguable as to he's certainly less qualified than Jeff Sessions, but maybe he's slightly less racist as long as you're a Christian. But
well,
I
don't
would
know
be
about
surprised if that was the case.
We just need to get off the Democratic plantation.
There you go.
Me and my fellow superhero Kanye, we're working on it. Because, there's buildings don't have 13 floors. That's divine law.